Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in New York with the fate of tens of millions of humans right now on the knife's edge because if nothing changes in the next 4 hours and Donald Trump follows through on the things he said out loud, his public threat, we may all soon be witness to a military assault so generationally and intentionally brutal that war crimes aren't just possible, but they become U.S. policy. But again, that is only if you take Donald Trump at his word. That's risky. In the lead up to his 8 p.m. Eastern deadline for Iran. In a morning message, wholly unlike anything ever uttered by any American president under any circumstance ever, Donald Trump posted this, quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change, where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionarily wonderful can happen. All caps, who knows?" That message, which is in and of itself crazy and contradicts itself over the course of fragments and sentences, did have the impact of sending a tremor across the globe, the aftershocks of which we're still registering as we come on the air. First, as it relates to the possibility of a peaceful resolution, the Wall Street Journal cites Middle Eastern officials in reporting this, that Iran cut off direct communications with the United States of America over that post, though talks with ceasefire mediators continue. A state-run Iranian newspaper is denying such reports, although two diplomats from the region tell MS Now that the chances of the U.S. and Iran reaching a deal before tonight's deadline today are low and that the two sides remain far apart in the talks. As embassies across the Middle East urge American citizens there to take care, hundreds of Iranians are assembling at sites of major infrastructure. They're forming human shields at the behest of some Iranian officials in front of power plants that could be the targets of U.S. strikes. A separate Iranian news agency reported earlier that air defenses have been activated over Tehran, with fighter planes flying low over the city. Meanwhile, U.S. Central Command published this video earlier. It's a video of Navy jets taking off from the USS Abraham Lincoln in the region. Again, Donald Trump has created a worldwide tinderbox, and the most optimistic interpretation of all of it is the taco thing, that Trump is simply indulging in a style of negotiation for which he's advocated before. It's also called the madman theory, a geopolitical strategy that elevates unpredictability above other infinitely more reasonable orientations. But whether or not Trump follows through or punts the deadline or finds an off-ramp or strikes a deal, we should be clear-eyed about what is an historic nexus today of bright red lines that have already been crossed. For the Iranian people to threaten that, quote, a whole civilization could, quote, die tonight. For Donald Trump, who put that in writing and posted it, for the people around him who let him. The president constantly campaigning for peace prizes. Crucially, for some of Donald Trump's characteristically unwavering supporters, people who hung in there with him after January 6th, after COVID. This afternoon, some of those very same people, some of the loudest ones, are spending the final hours before Donald Trump's promised assault pleading with Donald Trump. The only way they know how, over the airwaves. Here's Trump loyalist Senator Ron Johnson.
I am hoping and praying that President Trump this really is bluster. I do not want to see us start blowing up civilian infrastructure. I do not want to see that. We are not at war with the Iranian people. You know, we are trying to liberate them.
So they're the Ron Johnsons, but they're also the Tucker Carlsons, conservatives, going so far as to publicly urge top officials at the Pentagon to consider refusing Donald Trump's orders should he advocate for the use of weapons of mass destruction. Watch.
Unless somebody puts the brakes on right away, we're going to wind up in a place that we can't even imagine. Not just Iran, us and the rest of the world. And so that means, because this is obvious to anyone who's paying any attention, that if you work in the White House or in the U.S. military, now it's time to say no, absolutely not, and say it directly to the president, no. In case you're thinking about using some weapon of mass destruction against the population of Iran, in whose name we liberated Iran. We killed their religious leader for their benefit. Do you remember that? This was last month. Those people who are in direct contact with the president need to say, no, I'll resign. I'll do whatever I can do legally to stop this because this is insane. And if given the order, I'm not carrying it out. Figure out the codes on the football yourself. Because everything hangs in the balance right now. This is not hysteria. This is 100% real.
This is not hysteria. This is 100% real. Quote from Tucker Carlson. Now, even if the situation doesn't rise to that level, and Americans of all political persuasions, people around the world certainly are hoping that it does not, as we said, a lot of damage has already been done. In the words of historian Timothy Snyder today, quote, whatever happens tonight, the president, by saying such things, has already changed the world for worse, has already made acts of mass violence more likely. If we are Americans, he has already changed our country. He has changed us because he represents us. We voted for him, or we didn't vote for him and allowed him to come to power, or we didn't do enough to stop him. These words are America's words until and unless Americans reject them, end quote.